Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. This is a good one. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and call it a Siler female.
I call it a Siler, although I have friends who call them Sillers.
Well, they're silly. So they're silly. They don't know what they're talking about. and
I call them Silers.
I'm assuming this is a female.
Yes, this is a female because the males actually look almost identical in terms of coloration, but the males have very hairy forelegs and very fluffy palps. That is those two little sort of arm things in the front, the little tiny ones. Those are the palps, and the male palps are where they store the reproductive materials. So actually, they tend to be more rounded and fluffier.
So how do you spell that? P-O-A-L-P-S. Okay, palps, got it. Library, yeah, got it. So these spiders, speaking, because we actually were talking about earlier about when you're talking about dimorphism and everything, I was thinking to myself, like a peacock, like the hen isn't very bright or very colored, and then you look at the male is like crazy bonkers beautiful. Yeah.
Actually, interestingly, the males are usually darker than the females in the sexualism sort of scale. Yeah. So that's on spiders, and I don't know if that's because they're trying to stay a little bit more unobtrusive in terms of being seen by the female. Right.
Okay, so let me describe the image. So the image is kind of cool because the railing is somewhat tilted, the spider seems to be on a tilted, I don't know, flooring, I guess, and it's obviously. It's two front legs. So again, it's a close-up. You can only see 4 of the eyes. Its 2 front legs are high in a kind of threatening, like I'm going to jump you sort of position. And you can see, so it's a dark, dark spider. You can see a lot more of the hairs. It's a lot hairier than the previous images.
The back of the spider. So this is one of our very colorful spider species. And so you can see a little bit of the color at the back. So you can see some of the blue-orange coloration that these have.
Sometimes when I've seen some photographs of these, they look almost iridescent.
Yeah, they are incredibly colorful spiders. In terms of, I don't know if people have come across the peacock dancing spiders in Australia and the incredible colors that those guys have. Well, these are kind of our equivalent of the peacock. They don't have those amazing mating dances, but in terms of the coloration, the 2 different types of silers are the really amazing colored spiders in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's great.
And these guys are quite interesting because a lot of spiders don't eat ants, right? There's only about 2 or 3, except for the ant-mimic spiders themselves, which obviously look like the ants, and they trail after the ants for food. And then there's another species called Theania, which tends to eat ants as well. But the silers actually actively seek out ants to eat. In fact, they will go into the nests and get the larvae as well as the adults. And so those raised front arms, I think, has something to do with the same as with the ant-mimic spiders. They actually have them raised up to mimic the antennae of the ants. And so when they come across an ant, you immediately see them raise those little front legs up in a sort of half defensive, half sort of I'm one of you type posture, I think. And then everyone will sort of scurry along, and they'll go and follow the ants to try and follow them to the nest.
Oh, okay.
And when they see something that's threatening, they'll also raise up those front legs and wave them at you. So a lot of siler photos you get will be front legs waved.
Right.
Almost like they're in a hold-up.
So were you a budding entomologist 20 years ago?
No, absolutely not.
So this is all recent.
I did want to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
But I've always been really fascinated with the sea, and in fact, I have a scuba diving instructor's certificate.
Nice. Are you now the village kook who's outside taking pictures of spiders, and then they're just like, oh yeah, there she is again?
Yeah, the people who come across me regularly are like, what the heck?
Because they can't see what you're trying to photograph.
And I do actually offend a lot of people because I'm like, get your hands off the railings. They're trying to come along for their normal walk. Yeah. And I'm like, hands off. You're killing my subjects. I don't probably win a lot of friends in that respect.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so we have in Hong Kong, I think a pretty lot. We have a tarantula species, yeah.
Yeah, we have some amazing tarantulas. They're all tiny though.
Right.
They're all very small.
Oh.
People needn't freak out about your tarantulas.
Okay.
Because there's no particularly big ones.
Oh, okay. The largest one I've seen is probably the huntsman.
Yes.
Yes.
So the huntsman and the crab spiders can get quite big.
Yeah.
Again, they're actually very shy. Those spiders, they don't really want to be near you if they can help it.
Of course.
If I'm trying to get photos of the huntsman spiders on the railings, sometimes they come out. There's a lot more at night. The crab spiders and the huntsman on the railings, but they're all really shy. Mm-hmm. They're running up and down the railings, and you're chasing after them trying to get photos.
For some reason, I have Benny Hill, the theme music in my head. Sorry.
It is quite Benny Hill-like.
Okay, so in your house, would you pick up a spider with your hand?
Yes, now I would. Initially, I was a bit worried about it, but definitely now I'm quite happy to do that.
What's the largest spider you'd pick up?
Probably the smaller huntsman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't, for example, pick up a golden orb.
Right.
All right. Just because they do have a little bit of a bite. Mm-hmm. Right. So you have to be aware of, the bites are not in any way fatal, mm-hmm. Or in fact that dangerous. Basically, they'd give you a bit of a sting and then an itchy spot for a while. So you do have to be aware of that with the orbs. But again, orbs, those are the big spiders everyone sees when they're out hunting, when they're out hiking, right? Yep. They're the ones that sit in the big webs, and the webs are incredibly strong.
Yeah.
But they, when they're threatened, will try and go down to the side of the web rather than than at you. It's only if you blunder the web accidentally and they don't have time to get away, they might have a defensive reaction. So you don't have to really worry about them because they want to get away from you as much as you want to get away from them. And that's the same with most of the spiders. But with the bigger spiders, I am aware that some of them have a slightly, will give me a bit of an itchy sort of reaction for a while.
Mm-hmm. I think just listening to you speak about your sudden sort of awakening to this photography, and then just kind of developing and getting closer and getting better images. So for the people who are listening to this who aren't in Hong Kong, they might be like, well, so for example, if you're in the west coast of North America, you might have some black widows, and then you have a big fear of those spiders, rightly so, because those are quite dangerous. But what would you say, from just because it's been such a new kind of process of getting into photography, how would you open this door for other people to invite them into taking more photos? Do you have any kind of advice?
I think the good thing about my photography was I've started with a very easy camera, right? If I'd started with one of those big DSLR cameras, being the technophobe that I am, I would probably not have got as into the photography because I just wouldn't have got the results as fast. So I would say for people who are just starting out like me, that starting out with a handheld, depending on what sort of photography you want to do, obviously you want to do macro, then I'd recommend the TG6. But starting out with a smaller handheld so that you can just get the hang of how to do it before you move on to the bigger cameras is quite good. The other good thing about my smaller handheld is if you do want to do certain types of macro, like with spiders and caterpillars and things like that, then having something that you can get close into your subject is actually quite good because you've got more control over what you're doing. If you want to take photos of butterflies and dragonflies, then you may need something with a bigger lens because obviously you can't get very close to them. I'll tell you, I like taking photos of the dragonflies out at Bride's Pool. And in order to get close enough to them to get a macro shot, I literally have to commando crawl across the rocks with my camera. All the photographers with their huge lenses, and there's me crawling across the rocks like an idiot.
Like a committed person.
I do. There's a lot of laughter when I go out.
That's fine.
In that respect.
No shame. Just do it.
So, I think obviously it depends on what you want to take photos of, but having a smaller, simpler camera to start off with is really good. It's funny you're calling this podcast shooting at RAW. Do you know I haven't even started shooting in RAW?
That's fine.
I'm so everyone has been pushing me. Robert's been pushing me, and this other chap, Andrew, who I go with also, they've been all pushing me to go RAW, and I just I have to get Lightbox downloaded onto my computer so that I can learn how to use that before I can do the RAW. I'm still shooting in JPEGs. So, I mean, you can, even with the very simple, you can get relatively good results, even with the very simple sort of format. Sure. And eventually I'll move into RAW because I'd like to be able to blow my pictures up a bit further.
Yeah, got it.
Don't be like me and be technically sort of...
You're exactly what you need to be to get these amazing images. Like your recipe, your approach, your whatever, you're fine. You're totally fine.
Do whatever you need to do to get the images, and work slowly towards becoming better and doing more of the technical stuff.
Sasha, that's awesome.
I wouldn't have got where I got if I tried to get a more complicated camera and been trying to work it out. Start simple towards the more complicated.
Sasha, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Really fascinating conversation. And if people want to see more of your images, do you have an online gallery?
Yes, I do on Instagram.
Okay.
And so the handle is Haldane Sasha. That's just no capitals.
I'll link to it.
HALNE SASHA. And that's so far. Otherwise, you could also have a look on the Bug City 2 Facebook page. But you do have to join that one. It's not to join; it's just having an interest in bugs. Sure. But my Instagram page is public, so anyone can have a look and ask me any questions you want about what I'm taking the photos of. I'm always happy to answer.
Thanks for joining me for this call. Listen, I'll see you around. And then next time I'm walking around Bridespool and I see some woman crawling around the rocks, I'll wave hi. Bye. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.